In Chapter 15 of Great Expectations, Pip leaves school after learning as much from Biddy as he can. Pip tutors Joe, secretly hoping to make him more worthy in the eyes of Miss Havisham and Estella. One day, Pip asks Joe if it would be all right for Pip to visit Miss Havisham, really wanting to see Estella. Joe reminds Pip that Miss Havisham said they should not expect any more from her. But when Pip claims he just wants to thank Miss Havisham, Joe allows him to have a half-day holiday. Joe has an assistant named Orlick, a grumbling, crotchety character who dislikes Pip, and he demands that if Pip gets a half-day holiday, he should get one too. Joe reluctantly agrees. Mrs. Joe, listening from the yard, gets upset and calls Joe a fool for granting half-holidays. When Orlick calls Mrs. Joe a foul shrew, she flies into a rage. Joe defends his wife, beating up Orlick, but they quickly reconcile over beer shortly thereafter. Pip heads to Satis' house, and Miss Sarah Pocket lets him in instead of Estella. In the dressing room, Pip greets Miss Havisham and thanks her. Miss Havisham tells Pip to visit her on his birthday. She notices Pip looking around for Estella, and she tells him that Estella has gone abroad for her education and is prettier than ever, then dismisses him. Pip feels terrible. Miss Havisham seems to get great delight from lording Estella over Pip as if she's an unattainable prize. Pip, Mr. Wopsle, and Orlick walk to the tavern, where they learn that someone has been attacked at Pip's house. Pip and Orlick run home, where they find a crowd gathered. Mrs. Joe has been knocked down by a tremendous blow on the back of the head. In Chapter 16 of Great Expectations, Pip reviews the scene of the assault on his sister. During the evening of the crime, Joe was at the tavern for 2 hours. When he went home, he found Mrs. Joe down on the floor. Mrs. Joe was facing the fire when struck on the back of the head and spine by a blunt object. Nothing was stolen from the house. On the ground beside her, Joe spots a convict's leg iron. The leg iron had been filed, which tells Pip that it was the same one worn by his convict. Pip believes either Orlick or the strange man with the file committed the crime. But Orlick has a strong alibi, having been seen about town during the evening of the assault. After the assault, Mrs. Joe has impaired memory, hearing, and speech, so she has difficulty communicating what she wants. But Pip points out that her temper and patience are greatly improved. After months of frustration at not being able to understand Mrs. Joe, Pip invites Biddy to stay at his house, as Biddy has a knack for understanding what Mrs. Joe is trying to communicate. Eventually, Mrs. Joe shows a desire to be on good terms with Orlick.